Hello and welcome to another Typical Boro podcast. I'm your host, Steve Dixon. Can I ask you please to subscribe to our YouTube channel, leave comments. If you're listening via other platforms, please rate and review. We are, of course, on the Red Radio every Tuesday, 6 till 7. So, on my screen, I have my ever-present friend, Mr. Graham Bandira.
Morning, lads. We all right?
Morning.
And we have a guest. We have Rob Fletcher, who is the creator, editor and writer for the Boro Mag, and is also a podcast for These Football Times. This week's podcast, These Football Times, is a must for any Middlesbrough fan, as they are discussing the 1996-1997 season, which was a fantastic season for Middlesbrough. So if you can, after you've listened to this podcast first, of course, give Rob a listen on These Football Times. So welcome, Rob.
Hi, gents. I tried to squeeze as much Boro content as I could in that episode, looking at all the Premier League, but managed to get most of it in there.
Brilliant. That's what I want. Right. So we called this podcast the Typical Boro podcast for a reason. So, of course, Middlesbrough came up with the most typical Boro week you can possibly imagine. 3 wins off the spin, 15 goals, burn at home, lose 1-0. Then we march on to Saturday, Hull City, much better display, 3 goals, back up to 5th in the league, everything's rosy again. So a proper typical Boro week. So that's what we're going to start with, that's what we're going to cover at the moment. So we'll just dial it back, unfortunately, to a freezing cold Wednesday night at the Riverside against Blackburn Rovers. And I'll bring in Graham, because I know he was particularly opinionated on Wednesday night. So I'll let Graham start with the Blackburn game.
I'm not quite sure I can say on air what I said to you in my text, Dick, or the phone call afterwards on the way home. But no, in all seriousness, it was a disaster. I wanted 9 points from, the Oxford game, the Blackburn game, and the Hull game. So we got 2/3. We got 6 out of 9. Not bad, but could have been better. And that's always been the case for me. We never quite achieve what we want to achieve. And if we want to achieve greatness, then we need to pick up maximum points as often as possible. So very disappointing. However, the circumstances on that evening sort of went against us a wee bit with the Azaz illness. I mean, that was a disaster because I've said all along, all season, even when fans were sort of giving him criticism for not being involved enough or being too slow, too pedestrian, not doing enough on the ball. He's always available. He's been brilliant all season. I just think now his assists are now getting recognised because we've got that dynamic up front and it's working a treat. And he's always looked at getting 2-3 shots away in a game. And your luck does change if you keep banging on the door and keep working hard. So it was a disaster not having him in the team, and I think that was basically the downfall of the whole evening. It just didn't go to plan. If he was in that team, I think we would have beaten Blackburn. I think we would have found a way because they were poor. Raised the game a little bit by all accounts yesterday, but Leeds were poor. So maybe Blackburn know the way of how to drag other teams down. Because we were particularly bad that night, and it just didn't go to plan. The atmosphere was morgue-like, and it just felt like that in the performance. However, it's all about reacting. Carrick always says that post-match. It's how we react, brush that one aside and move on, which is a good thing to do. And we had obviously Azaz back yesterday and other players returned, and it was so much better. We could have won by more yesterday. But I have to give Hull credit. They came to play. Blackburn didn't. Blackburn came to sit in, park the bus if you want to use that phrase. But Hull were enterprising, they were brave, which found space for us to exploit, and Azaz did it to effect, and Doak had another wonderful game. 2 assists. Conway was on fire. Unlucky not to get a hat-trick. So brilliant day and a good bounce back.
So Rob, we're talking about Blackburn, and Graham alluded to the changes. Obviously, Conway and McGree were in for Bergzog and Azaz. And obviously we lost Riley McGree after 20 minutes. So it was like a triple whammy. Obviously, Seny Dieng was missing as well, still ill with illness. So what were your thoughts going into the Blackburn game? Were you apprehensive? I mean, did Blackburn catch with perhaps at a good time? I was reluctant to mention, Blackburn had a free week with their game being called off. Middlesbrough had played, didn't have as much rest time as Blackburn, but there was a gap from Saturday to Wednesday. Should that be taken into account, along with the injuries, or was it just a bad night for Boro?
I think it was a little bit of everything, to be honest. I think Kieran Scott mentioned injuries in the couple of interviews he did at the start of the season, where players are having to probably play more than we would want them to because we haven't got maybe the strength and depth on the bench or the starting more games. So I think that does have an impact on us. Missing Finn Azaz in the way that he's playing at the moment, the way that he's linking up with the forward line, it's been really impressive. And as Graham says, all the way through the season, he's been like this. It's just the people haven't put the ball in the net.
Yeah.
And that's his job is get the ball in the right place. He obviously can control it by getting it into the right areas, onto the right foot, your strongest foot or whatever, but he's been doing that for most of the season. I actually think it was a bit of a weird display from Blackburn, and I wonder if teams will recognise this in us. In the first half, they had pretty much more of the ball than us, made more passes than we did, and they actually looked like they were going to try and get on top and try and attack us. Second half, it was almost like from kick-off, it's retreat. And I actually think if they see that in us, like if we haven't got an early goal, they just think, hang on a minute, they've not scored by half-time. If we just retreat a little bit, they'll try and push more men forward. They may not make subs as quickly as you would think they would if you haven't got that goal. And obviously then Blackburn find themselves a little bit more in the ascendancy in terms of we don't create a lot of chaos in the box. So when we've got these games where teams drop deep, we aren't peppering the ball in the box. I know that's not our style, and that's absolutely fine. But for 5 minutes, just Borges, whack a load of crosses in the box. Elland, get a load of crosses in the box. Pack the box, see if they can cope with it. And if they do, you try something slightly different. I think we probably suffered from that a little bit. And always in modern football, counter-attacks kill possession teams because generally you've got more men on the ball. You can break quickly. They had the disallowed goal. Obviously, we know the other one should have been disallowed. But the first one was on a quick break. And that's kind of how you beat us, I think.
That was the warning sign, wasn't it? That goal that was disallowed.
Yeah.
We still continue to play, and you could just smell a goal coming. To be honest, because we could have played till midnight and not scored because there was just no edge, there was no cutting edge, no dynamic, there was no ingenuity in that final third, and we were never going to score. To be honest, but we could have got a point. That point could be vital if we'd have just ground it out and sort of got dragged down to their level a wee bit. But to be fair to them, they did score a fantastic goal. 2 or 3 quick pinpoint passes, got round us and scored an offside goal. But not what we can do about that, is there?
Yeah.
So, Rob, is that a Middlesbrough's Achilles heel, possibly? Just having that sort of experience of wanting to see a game out and know, smell that it's not going to be your night. Let's just settle down. Let's just take the point and move on to Saturday against Hull. Because Middlesbrough seem to give away an awful lot of points like this against sides. Watford away springs to mind when we're 1-0 up at Watford and managed to lose the game 2-1. Is that a bit of Achilles heel where Middlesbrough need to sort of be more savvy and just say, look, it's not our night. We've got a few injuries. We'll take the point, take the 0-0 and move on to Hull?
Yeah, I mean, I don't read too much into it, to be honest, because every football team's got an Achilles heel. When Karanka was in charge and we were dominating lots of games, if we let the first goal in, we didn't win. Simple as that. I remember a game at home to Bristol City early in the promotion season. I think they beat us 1-0. You absolutely knew we weren't going to score. If we sorted this problem out, there'd be something else. It'd be like we haven't got pace in the full-back areas, or our centre-backs aren't as quick as they should, or whatever. If you solve one thing, something else appears, because actually, if we were peppering the ball in the box and we had 5 in the box, we might get killed on the counter-attack. So actually, whatever football team you are, look at Man City, not comparing us to Man City, but they play like a possession-style football. Lost 4 on the bounce. The best manager of all time, arguably. They've won 4 Premier League titles in a row. This is just their current Achilles heel. Look at Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool before Slot got there. All football teams have an Achilles heel. I do think we can make tweaks to try and overcome it a little bit, but if we did, something else would give. And I think what Carrick thinks is, if we've got the ball, we should be in control of the game. Because actually possession, in its first instance, is defensive. If you haven't got the ball, you can't score. If we've got it, you can't score. So if we've got more of it, then it should mean defensively we're more solid. But for me, I think, and he said it after the game actually, he said something like maybe we need to make a few little changes or tweaks and recognise when the tempo of the game needs to change or something like that. And I think he realises that because he knows it can't go on if you want to get 90 points, basically.
Our team's
Brilliant.
starting to work Middlesbrough out in terms of our tactics. Just looking at our defeats this season, which there've been 7, including the cup game against Stoke. And just a couple of stats that jumped out at me when I had a little look back. So, Derby 1, Middlesbrough 0. Cup game, Middlesbrough 0, Stoke 5. Sunderland 1, Middlesbrough 0. Watford 2, Middlesbrough 1. Boro 0, Bristol City 2. Middlesbrough 0, Coventry 3. In Middlesbrough 0, Blackburn 1. So the first stat that jumps out at me is in the 7 defeats that we've had this season, we've scored 1 goal in 7 games. Now, this is a free-flowing attacking team that's just scored 15 goals in 3 games recently. In the 7 defeats, 1 goal. So that can't be a coincidence. And the second one is, in those 7 defeats, other than the Coventry game, where Middlesbrough had 50%, the same as Coventry, every other game, Middlesbrough dominated possession and lost 71%, 66%, 63%, 62%, 69% and 61%. So the 7 defeats, Middlesbrough dominate possession, Middlesbrough don't score, and Middlesbrough get beat. Do we need to be wary of that moving forward? That managers can think, actually, we've got a pretty good chance if we can come to Middlesbrough and sit in against them and catch them on the break. There's a good chance we're not going to get beat today. What do you think, Graham?
I think looking at the regularity of recent defeats, they're not as regular as they were early season. I think that is because the team has now evolved a lot more. There's a lot of telepathy. There's players who know when players are making runs. They're starting to gel. That's why I've always said that we should always play our best team if fit, so players can get that telepathy. Early season, we were still tinkering. We were trying to find that dynamic. It took us probably 7-8 games to work that out. Work out that Conway, in my opinion, was a better striker off the cuff than Latela. We've got Doak cemented on that right-hand side now. The left-hand side's always been an issue because Riley's never fit, but we're having to compensate for that by playing other players in there who are not familiar with that particular role. So I just think, if you look for results from now in maybe 2 or 3 months' time, I don't think you'll see as many defeats. I just think we've worked ourselves out. Carrick's found that formula now on what's best to give us the best chance of getting a result. I think there's a mix of what you're saying, Dicko. We've got to be cautious about, allowing teams to just be horrible against us and sit in and then pick us off on the counter. We always have to be wary of that. Some teams will be able to do that and they'll play that way all the time. Other teams won't be capable and they'll eventually succumb to us and we'll beat them. And what Rob says in terms of other teams combating us, I think he's absolutely spot on. He was brilliant in saying that when teams come at us, they already have a plan. They've worked out how we're going to play. They're sort of 1 step ahead of us. So now it's up to us to get 1 step ahead of them. So I think it's a balance between what you say, but I think we're ticking along quite nicely now.
I think
1 defeat in 5. So
I think with the possession stats as well. Now I do like looking at a stat and all that kind of stuff, but actually if you look at a lot of the possession stats, I think some of it you've got to look at sort of when the goals are scored. So like the Derby game, for example, I think was that in the first 15 minutes, 14 minutes or something. Like, of course, they're going to retreat and just let us have the ball because actually they know they haven't got the attack that can trouble us. And they didn't. Did they have 2 or 3 shots maybe? And obviously, poor Isaiah Jones, if he didn't do that, we probably would have beaten 4-0. But actually, it was early in the season. We didn't have the right kind of mix up front and it was all a bit awkward and a bit weird. Remember those games where we thought, should McGree be starting? Well, yeah. Well, should he be a 10? Should he be left? Is Bergsorg a striker or is he a left winger? Azaz was playing on the left. Conway was behind Latelath. And I actually think, back to the Blackburn game, Conway can't play how Chuba Akpom played. He's absolutely not that kind of player.
Conway was like a fish out of water.
He didn't know what to do.
No.
Whereas Chuba knew he was great at arriving in the box late for chances. But actually, a lot of our play now comes centrally. Whereas before it was through, like on the right with Jones or with Tommy Smith or with Ryan Giles on the left or whatever. Actually now we're much more centralised because the ball goes into Azaz all the time. It's why we criticise Borges for not getting forward. We're not really a wide team. I know we've got Bendo, but we're not really kind of a team that stretches the play wide like we might have done in the past. And I think the Watford the Coventry game, you've got the Hackney red card after 20 minutes. So a weird one. The Watford game and the Bristol City games, they were the two where I thought we might be in trouble here. We might be like a top 10 team or a top 12 team, not a top 6 team. They were the two where I thought we don't even look like plan A is working. Whereas now I think plan A is working, like you're saying, Bandy. Plan A works 85% of the time, you're going to be top 4, probably. If it works 90% of the time, you'll be top 2. That's what Wilder's done. He's like, right, we don't let goals in, we win by the odd goal. That's the way we play. And obviously they couldn't do that against us because you've got to sometimes create a bit more. I know we got out of jail a little bit in that Sheffield United game, but that's a game where we did beat a team who sat in on us a little bit and tried to do that. So I think it's a tricky one. I mean, I'd love it if we could just get a little bit more in the box in some of those games where the teams sit back a little bit. Because sometimes, and you see this, George Edmondson, Dale Fry and Luke Ayling, for the best will in the world, are not our most creative footballers. So actually when you see a low block, you're like, why are these three thinking they're Iniesta, Xavi and Pirlo playing passes? I'd have one of them off and I'd get another midfielder on and just play 2 at the back or 3 at the back. Because actually you don't need them. Because if you're going to have a counter-attack, you've all just got to pelt it back anyway. That would be the tweak for me. Just go to like a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2 or whatever, and just that would be my tweak.
Just camp out on the edge of their box and get shots off. We don't shoot enough. You know,
you're right. When we're losing, we've got to be a bit more dynamic. We've got to think outside the box, like you say, get more bodies forward, get more crosses in, things like that. Just throw the kitchen sink a little bit. It's okay to play the Michael Carrick way, but when it gets to the last 20 minutes of games, I agree with you too. We just need to be a bit more dynamic, have a better plan B, like you say. Rob, great point, take a defender off, stick another midfielder in there, get the ball forward quicker, get the ball wide, get crosses in. It's common sense, but Michael Carrick has his reasons for what he does, and, you know, more often than not, he gets it right. One point from Wednesday night that stuck out, that's been mentioned a lot on the social media and stuff like that, and I'm not in the camp of hammering players, but I do think it needs to be mentioned, because he was, at the time, what looked like was going to be a terrific signing in the summer, when we brought Mika Hamilton to the club from Manchester City. He hasn't played a lot of games, he hasn't started a lot of games, but in the cameos he's had in the starts, he's had in the cup game against Stoke, and obviously coming on in the Blackburn game, got a lot of time in the Blackburn game. He looks like he's struggling a little bit. Now, I think he's been unlucky in the fact that when we signed him, me included as a Middlesbrough fan, you're looking what happened when we brought Morgan Rogers to the club. And then you're looking at, we've brought Ben Doak, who's younger than him at 19, and the impact Ben Doak's had. And you're looking for something similar from Mika Hamilton. And it just, for whatever reason, hasn't happened. Now, my take on it is he's come from the Manchester City Academy. He hasn't been sent out on loan. He's only had one start for Man City. He hasn't really had many starts for Middlesbrough. And he's finding his feet. And he's used to playing the Man City way. If total possession, keep the ball, keep it safe, don't give it away, the Guardiola way. But in the Championship, that's not what we need. We need your winger, your wide players to be more dynamic. Get the step overs, get past your fullback, get crosses in, get shots off, like what Ben Doak's doing. I think he might benefit Mika Hamilton from going out on loan, because undoubtedly there'll be a talent there that needs unlocked, and obviously Michael Carrick's probably the man to do that. But at the moment, to me, he doesn't look at the required level that what we need to be coming off the bench to get us in that top 6, if that makes sense. I just wonder what you guys' thoughts are on Mika Hamilton at the moment. I'll come to you first, Rob.
I think he's come into a really tricky situation, because a lot of the games he's come in, we've got beat. So obviously he's going to look worse. He's come on for Riley McGree in midweek, which doesn't help. There's no Finn Azaz next to him, which doesn't help. Borges is still kind of settling into the team, and I actually think he's improved over time. And he started to build a bit of a relationship with Bergsorg and McGree. So that's tricky. What I would say is he's a little bit safe for me, actually. I actually think he's really controlled. He doesn't give the ball away a lot. Sometimes he gets caught on the ball, in a decent position, but passing-wise, he's normally okay. He's quite safe. He'll turn it back and give it to a midfielder or whatever, and that's fine. That's part of football. For me, I'm not quite sure about what position he is. So I'm not sure if he's a McGree type who's a right coming in off the left. I'm not sure if he's an Azaz type who wants to be kind of central or working through that. I think your point about Rodgers is true. Rodgers had 3 loan spells before he came to Boro, playing with men, if you like. I think Ben Dope's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. He's got a little bit of that cockiness, that little bit of attitude that I think you need to play at a good level. For me, it's two things. He's either a Matthew Hoppy type, who actually, we've misprofiled him, the scouting's not been great, and even when you send him out on loan, he might not do well. Or it's an Alex Gilbert, who actually played a lot less than Hamilton, didn't look great, and now people, a point at the start of this season were saying, as soon as Gilbert is back, he should be in over Azaz, which I think is mad, because I think Gilbert's a good player. He's a really good understudy to Azaz. So the club might be thinking, if we keep him in and around all the senior pros, by March, actually we can play him a little bit more. They might not have even wanted to play him as much as they have now, but with injuries, he's had to play, and that's just the way it's been. And maybe that hasn't been part of the plan, and this is what we're seeing. We've got to probably trust in the fact that some of the players that the club have brought in might take a little bit longer, because really we're comparing him to Rodgers, who's now playing the Champions League, which is quite unfair to Hamilton. We're comparing him to Rav, who's joined at, 18, 19, who looks brilliant. Dokes just turned 19, looks great. Conway looks great. Force bags goals whenever he's not made out of glass. Morris has settled it. So actually the hit rate from the recruitment team's great. And maybe Hamilton was someone they didn't want to play that much. But because he's had to play, he looks out of place, if you see what I mean. So for me, it's either he'll get a League One loan, or the club will just say, you're all right, keep going. We know by the time March, April comes, you'll be a little bit more ready. Then the following season, you're kind of going to be a little bit more ready for first team football. We don't actually know what those conversations have been. It's tough when fans get on your back, because as a pro, that must be awful, especially as a 21-year-old. So, I mean, I'd give him a bit more time. We've got nothing. What have we got to lose? What does he cost? £2 million? Over 4 years, there's £500,000 a year on the books. He's probably on £5,000 a week. I don't actually think it's that much of a risk, to be honest.
I mean, to be fair, I don't think the fans have got on his back when he's playing. I think they're just being disappointed in his performances. He's not offering any end product. Graham, do you think he's going to end up being a decent player for Middlesbrough in time, or do you think unfortunately he's just not going to be the required level?
I don't want to go in hard too early, because I'll probably get a booking. But he looked way off it. He looked out of his depth, if I'm being brutally honest, against Blackburn. Now that could be a number of reasons. Blackburn are a totally different team to a Premier League outfit who will probably stand off a player and allow him time on the ball. Blackburn were getting rattled into him straight away, knowing that he's quite slight, he is quite weak on the ball, so you can dispossess him quite easily. I think it's a bit of man management from Carrick that's needed, I think, in terms of coaxing him into knowing what he needs to do to survive in this league. He's a graduate from the Man City school of possession, as you alluded to, Dicko. You can see that a mile off, because he doesn't quite know when to lose to pass the ball off. He keeps the ball for too long. He looks like he's been conditioned on that left-hand side at Man City to basically pretend to attack his man, cut in, and just make the simple pass. We've seen that with Jack Grealish, the way he's regressed at Man City. He's not an off-the-cuff player anymore. So whatever they're doing at youth level at City, that's amplified throughout first team. So I think he's got to change the way he plays, and he has got to be bolder. He's got to be braver. He's got to be a little bit more aggressive. Don't be scared to lose the ball. As fans, all we want to see is a player attack the fullback. That's all we want to see. If you lose it, you lose it. That's up to other players to pick it up and we go again. You see it with Doak. He doesn't get past his man every time. He does lose the ball a lot. He does run into blind alleys, but he's trying things. So he's getting his numbers up. He's getting his assists. I just think Hamilton needs to be a lot braver, and just don't be too scared. Just show fans what you are capable of. But at the moment, he did look way off it. He looked a poor player. Hopefully in a year's time, we're having the same conversation. We're going, wow, what a player. I don't think he's a Morgan Rodgers type. I thought Rodgers, when he first came, he did show signs of technical prowess. He's brilliant on the ball. I've not seen that from Hamilton yet. I just see a neat, tidy, safe player, and a kid that was just a little bit timid. Whereas Rodgers, he had a physical presence. He was trying things. He's got a touch of arrogance as well. I think sometimes you need that to kick on and, be accepted by quality players. So Rodgers has done brilliant. He'll go on to bigger and better things, I'm sure. He's been given a chance. Whereas Hamilton, we're just going to have to be patient. And like you say, Rob and Dicko, a loan deal would probably serve him well. Go and get smashed around in League One and toughen up a bit. And I think we might see a better player.
I agree. One final point for Wednesday night, and we'll move on to better times. Obviously, Dominic Hines' goal, miles offside, dreadful officiating. Linesman was asleep at the job, way behind play. Missed this. Oh, I was absolutely fuming with it. Looking at the Championship, do you think VAR needs to come into the Championship when you look at the money that's at stake to get to the Premier League? I hate VAR. I hate watching it. It takes away a lot of the enjoyment for goal celebrations and stuff when you watch it in the Premier League. However, I think VAR in the Championship would greatly enhance Middlesbrough's chances of promotion, because if you're a good side that's on the front foot and attacking and creating lots and lots of chances, I think Middlesbrough would benefit from a lot of decisions by VAR. And also, like on Wednesday night, when you sort of defending well, like Middlesbrough did on Wednesday night, and were in the right position when that cross come in to say offside, and it's not given. I think not having VAR in the Championship sort of costs Middlesbrough points every season. So what I'm asking basically is, would you guys be in favour of VAR coming into the Championship, or would you rather we just had this crazy Championship world where bizarre decisions happen time and time again? Because I get sick of watching Middlesbrough getting bumped off. Like that decision, was it last season at Rotherham, the penalty? Should have had a penalty at Rotherham. Was it the fullback went through and got taken out, and we didn't get the penalty? And if VAR's there, you get the decision, you get the goals. I think it costs Middlesbrough a lot in the Championship.
Thing is, if VAR was there on Wednesday night, Ryan McGree would have been sent off after 20 minutes, so we'd have been back down to 10 men again.
And we probably would have lost Borges yesterday as well.
Yeah,
well,
so
good
so
points.
I think
Well made.
We're not being cocky.
No,
That's just fact.
That's good points. Well made, yeah. 100%.
That awful phrase, it evens itself out over the season. I think it does. I like the Championship for the fact that it's carnage. It's totally crazy. We're talking about issues that have long gone now. We won the game yesterday. Yeah, Borges could have been off the pitch. And obviously the Blackburn game, we did get done, but we will get the decisions going for us, I'm pretty certain.
I think what would be better about all of it, and I think football's communication from the officials, I think, would be much better, whether they do something after the game and say, Borges didn't get sent off because I noticed that the striker was pulling his shirt first and then Borges pulled his back. So in the rules it says, I think this is true at corners certainly, if you're pulling and he's pulling, it's like nullified, if you like. So the fact that then if after the game you had not a breakdown, but you kind of said, like, these were the 3 incidents, but the problem is fans would get annoyed if we disagreed. We'd get annoyed in the ground if there was VAR because we'd disagree with it. It's like, I've got mates, because I'm obviously in Liverpool, I've got mates who were Liverpool fans who were fuming at all the decisions that they thought Arsenal were getting yesterday, because they thought someone pushed on the corner before the goal, someone pushed before he got punched in the face for a penalty. But then West Ham's free kick wasn't a free kick because it shouldn't have been a foul because Rice got the ball, but they didn't complain about that. So football fans are an absolute nightmare. And I actually think if we use something like cricket or rugby as an example where there's actual communication that you can hear around it, then I think that would be fine. But I think we'd have to improve that. Because if you think about it, if the refs, no offence to the referees, but if the EFL officiating is this bad without VAR, all these people would be operating VAR. So actually, it doesn't solve your problem. You've got to make the officials better individually, and then you can bring in all your tech or whatever else. It's a bit like footballers, isn't it? They get measured how far they can run now. But if you can't pass the ball, it doesn't matter how far you run, just because you've got the tech. So I think it's actually making the officials better is what we probably need to do at our level.
I'm going to take the hit here. I think you've absolutely blown us out the water. My VAR plea is now in tatters. If I was in the witness box, my defence is blown out the water. You've taken us out. Done. So I actually agree. Made some great points, and Rob saying there, about making the officials better. That's probably the way to go, to be fair, because we do actually like the crazy world of the Championship, don't we, to be fair? We do actually enjoy it. So, yeah, I see your point. I'm probably looking with me red and white spectacles on, maybe Rob's, but I just get fed up when I see decisions like Wednesday night. It does me head in.
Yeah. Dicko, I like Rob's point about accountability. If a ref was to come out and be interviewed, just 20, 30 seconds, doesn't have to be a long interview, just say, look, why did you make that decision? Or why did your assistant referee make that offside call? That's all fans would need to know, and we wouldn't even be talking about it. It'd be like, all right, fair enough. And then that's it, you move on to the next game. So, yeah, I think we're just trying to micromanage it too much and just be a little bit too finicky when we don't need to be.
Just before we move on to Hull, I'm just going to mention the competition winner for November. So thanks to Miles Cladden of Middlesbrough for providing the prizes. And this month's prize was FC25 for the PS5 game, as you know. And the winner is Ian Bentley. So Ian, if you're watching,
well done, Ian.
listening, well done, Ian. You've won the FC25 game, courtesy of Miles Cladden. So we shall move on, and we will move on to Hull City. So, right, I'll start with you, Rob, because you're in positive mood today. Thoughts on the team news to start with. I was calling the Tinker Man, Michael Carrick. He was back, but in a good way, I thought, on Saturday. Changes, Clark, Elland, Howson, McGree, and Lath weren't playing through different reasons. In come Dijksteel, a surprise return by Hayden Hackney. Bergzog was back, a welcome back to him. Conway started ahead of Lat. And another surprise was the inclusion of Dale Fry. So 5 changes. When I seen the lineup, I was actually very, very encouraged by it. And I think I actually said to Graham at the time, we'll win today when I seen that lineup.
I said the same, yeah.
Your thoughts on the lineup, Rob?
I was looking for one number, and that was number 20. And as soon as I saw Azaz was playing, I thought we're probably going to win. You look for...
Did I miss Azaz out there? I did, didn't I?
Yeah, you did, yeah.
I missed Azaz out there.
Yeah.
Missed the main man out.
Yeah.
Sorry, apologies.
For me, I look for 20 and 50. 20 is Azaz and 50's Dork. If those two are playing, you know you've got a pretty good chance because they're better than anyone else in their position for me in the Championship.
Spot on.
But actually, I think we've been crying out for a long time over the last sort of 5 years, maybe even since we've been relegated from the Prem recently, of having a squad with some depth. I know we like to have a settled team and a strong team, but if you think back to Karanka, when we did get promoted, we had about 5 or 6 players who change in and out. You had Downing, Adoma, Stuani, Ramirez, Rhodes, Nugent, all those Kike even. So that's 7 players for those 4 front positions. I mean, we had like a rotating spinal tap drummer at right back, but the rest of the back line was always kind of solid. Ledbetter and Clayton were there, and Dimmy was there, but you had 7 players for 4 attacking roles. Now, I think Kieran Scott's taken his time to give Carrick that, and I actually really like that Carrick is using some of these players. Do you know what? Isn't it brilliant that Ayling and Howson, who were the other side of 30, Howson the other side of 35, have had 85 minutes off? Think about what that's putting into the legs, because we've got Burnley and Leeds the next 2 games. So he might be thinking, hang on, if we're winning 1-0 against Burnley here, and I need to bring another defender on or a defensive midfielder, I've got 2 players here who are a bit fresher, because we do need to manage them. Dijksteel, for all his flaws, is fine, isn't he? He's a 6 out of 10. He's going to make a couple of mistakes. He's going to do a couple of good things going forward, but actually that's okay. For me, the biggest one, I was actually pleased that Bergzog was back in, because I, for the first 2 months, could not stand him as a footballer. I thought he was ball greedy, selfish, didn't really want to be part of the team. I still think he's a little bit like that, but to his credit now, he's almost turned it into a positive that when he spins that defender and he just drives on, he's now starting to find Conway or Dork, and I think I was pleased that he was back in. But yeah, number 20 and number 50, if they're in the lineup, I think we've got to be happy, haven't we?
I said last week, I had on this podcast to Graham about Bergzog, the Bergzog conundrum with Ryan McGree being back fit, because my argument was pace in the Championship kills teams. And when you've got Dork on one side and suddenly you've got Bergzog on the other, and informed Bergzog driving at teams, I just wonder, certainly at home, if he's a better fit than Riley McGree the way we play. And I think he was a little bit unlucky to start the season, Bergzog, because you had a good start pre-season. He was playing on the left and he was causing a lot of trouble in pre-season. But then he was on the bench. And then when he came into the team, Carrick was sticking him in the number 10 position, and he's putting him up as a makeshift striker at times, which he's clearly not. But now he's went back onto his favoured left side. I thought he's been really terrific and put in some excellent displays. And I would, at the moment, if I was picking my team to move forward to the Burnley game, I would be starting Bergzog at the moment ahead of Riley McGree, who I think's arguably Middlesbrough's best footballer, along with Azaz. At the moment, I would probably leave Bergzog alone, because I think that front 4 with Azaz having pace to his left and pace to his right, and then either Conway or Lat up front who will run the hard yards and have got pace, is a real nightmare for any Championship side.
Well, I think Bandy's definitely going to say Riley McGree's one of our best footballers, so I'll go for it.
No, well, Dicko asked me the question last week, and he said, "Who would you choose?" And I said, "It's a no-brainer. Riley McGree starts every game for me if fit. Technically, he's alongside Azaz in terms of being the best footballer in our club and one of the best footballers in the league. So you can't really leave a player like that out. However, circumstances have changed because we're now seeing. I don't know whether Riley McGree's going to start the game anymore. There's no confidence in me saying that because for whatever reason, this foot injury now or this dead leg, it's always a different injury every week. So we can't hang our hat on him to start games. But if fit and ready to go, then he starts. But if he's fit for the Burnley game, I would start him and then possibly use him to get a foothold in the game. He's a good possession player. I don't think we can go to Burnley and try and hit them early because they could just do the same to us. We'll have to sort of ease into the game, 15, 20 minutes, try and get on the ball and try and create little chances. If we're still in the game or we're a goal up or we're chasing the game, then that's the time to bring Bergzorg on, I think, for me, with his pace. So I think we could use him effectively in that game, but I wouldn't start him. No.
I think like what you said, Dicko, is it can come down to the game. Bergzorg effectively is a forward on the left. McGree is a midfielder on the left, and McGree. We forget McGree's already got 5 assists this season. This is his best season for assists already. He's only started 8 games. So actually, if you've got McGree and Azaz, and if we could just, drag Borges 10 yards up the pitch, you've got 3 creators and Doak. And then you've got, Conway and Latilas finishing the last 4 or 5 games has just been absolutely brilliant. So I think if you do play Bergzorg, I do think Hull at home, absolutely perfect game for him.
Yeah, because he's Luton at home.
Luton at home.
2 goals.
You're not going to get caught out because actually, if we play Burnley, they'll play around Bergzorg because he'll be too busy attacking, and rightly so because that's his role. That's what he likes to do. But actually, if you want that control of possession in midfield, if we can get McGree fit for Burnley and Leeds, I'd play him in them 2 and let him have a month off because actually, I think in those games is where he's most important.
Yeah, I think for that reason, you'll probably bring Ayling back in.
Yeah.
As good as Dijksteel was, he was at fault for the goal, if I'm being honest, in my opinion. You're right in saying he's a 6, possibly 7 out of 10 every game, but I just think Ayling in games like that where you do need to micromanage the game yourself and waste time and kill the flow of the game, he's perfect for that. His experience would be vital in a big game atmosphere, particularly night games as well, where you're under the cosh.
So that's one conundrum that you have solved. I'm going to go on to another conundrum moving forward. So I'll start with you, Rob. Seny Dieng, he's been ill now for a week. Surely he's going to be back available for selection for Friday night against Burnley. He's been our number 1 a little while now. His form has picked up of late with an outstanding display away at Queen's Park Rangers. However, Sol Brynn has come into the side, and I think he's done very, very well. And I also think if he continues to play, he's only going to get better. Who starts in goal against Burnley, Rob?
I've been critical of Seny Dieng this season, actually, when we've been chatting on the Red, and I'd still bring him back in. I think Sol Brynn's been fine. I think he's been okay. I think his distribution's a little bit better than I thought it was going to be. I think he's not as confident on the ball as Dieng. He's a little bit quicker when he releases it. I think he still feels that little bit of pressure. But Dieng's number 1. Carrick's seen him in training every day for the last 15, 16 months. If Brynn was better than him, he'd be playing every week. For me, a goalkeeper's as easy as that. Remember the Schwarzer Crosley in the early 2000s? And fans were like, oh yeah, Crosley. Mark Schwarzer was one of the best goalies in the league. Crosley had a great spell, do not get me wrong, but he wasn't the number 1 goalkeeper. And I think that's, for me, it's as simple as that with a goalie. If you've got a number 1, you're seeing him day in, day out in training. And apparently he's been training, he was in training on Friday, I think, but not well enough to play. So I think he'll start against Burnley on Friday.
I think he's been faultless, so I would persevere with him. I'd keep Brynn in the team. I really would. He gives us a different dynamic. He's got quick, long, aggressive throws. Dieng doesn't really have that. Dieng's more of a keeper that plays with his feet, which is not a problem because that's how we play. But I just think Sol Brynn has offered us a different dimension in terms of quickly attacking at teams. And he's made some key saves at killer times. Going back to the Oxford game, 1-1, guy gets through, it's a nailed on round the keeper and a tap in. He somehow manages to get down and claw it away from his feet, change the dynamic of the game completely, did that. We went on to batter them. Good low save yesterday when Hull were pressing. They had a good 10-minute spell where they decided that they were really going to go for it, and he got down low quickly. I don't see him getting any worse. I think he's quite authoritative. He's commanding. I think he's got the respect of his defence. He's more of an imposing figure, and I think he's earned his chance. He's waited in the wings for quite a while now, and for whatever reason, he's got his chance. I don't know what Dieng's situation is at the moment. Is he still ill, or is he ready to come back in?
I think he's it was something in the Gazette this morning. I think that it was he's back training this week as normal.
So if he's back training this week as normal, it's a tough one for Carrick, because if we do make a change and it doesn't go to plan, then he's going to get hammered for not keeping Brynn in. But if he keeps Brynn in and he doesn't do particularly well, then everyone will say he should have brought Dieng in. But I would just keep it as it is. I don't see too much of a problem.
I would personally keep Sol Brynn in, because I don't think bringing Seny back is going to... It just leaves that criticism to come at his door. I think the fans are behind Sol Brynn. He's a local lad. He's doing well. If it doesn't go too well from Burnley, I think the fans would forgive him, and Seny would come back in anyway, naturally. Whereas after some really good performances by Sol Brynn, he's doing really well. Like you said, really important save yesterday. Good on crosses, catching the ball, good hands. If you then take him out and bring Seny back in, and Seny has a Norwich-type game, and we'll lose to Burnley, I think it just opens that criticism for Carrick, which is unnecessary.
Yeah.
I remember when Seny was away last season and he came back from the African Cup of Nations and Glover was playing. He didn't bring Seny straight back in, Michael Carrick. He left Glover, give him his chance, and he left him in for another 3 or 4 games, and Glover then made a couple of errors, and then he took Glover back out and brought Seny back in. So I would like to think Carrick sticks to his convictions on that and lets Sol keep the jersey.
Yeah. It's a huge game to bring Dieng back into.
Yes, that's what I think. That's what I think.
While.
Yeah.
It's one of them, into the Lions Den types game, isn't it? It's a massive game. To chuck him in is a risk. Just depends how much confidence he has in Brynn, and I think he's got a lot of confidence in him. So I don't see him changing it, if I'm honest.
So we've got conundrum number 3 now.
I'll say quiz show this.
I was absolutely, really, really, really impressed yesterday with Dale Fry. I thought he was outstanding coming back into the side, really commanding, done his job to perfection yesterday. And when John Cutler's on here, John Cutler's not really a big fan of Dale Fry. I always have been. I think he's got all the attributes to be a Premier League defender. But when he's at his best, I don't think there's many better in the Championship. And I thought he's outstanding yesterday. And now he's fit and he's back. But also you've got George Edmondson, who's done very, very well when he's come in. Matt Clark, his form's dipped a bit this season, but he's been a colossus for over the last year and a half, is Matt Clark. Then you've got Ram Vandenberg, who apparently is back in training. He's going to be back shortly, available for selection. If you had them all fit, Rob, what 2 are you picking?
I think it's quite easy. Rav and Clark, they're the 2 best defenders that we've got. One's left-footed, one's right-footed, so it fits perfectly. So it'd be quite easy for me.
Yeah,
exactly the same. Big fan of Clark, purely because of the adversity he's faced, a long-term out with injury, strong character. One of the ones that'll put his head on that floor and get a kick in the head for you. And a brilliant player. Looks a bit unbalanced at times because he is all left foot, but he compensates well on that left with Borges as well because he can release him. It's just a shame that Rav's never fit. That might work in our favour in January because the big teams will look at him and say, how many games has he played? Well, he's played only 50%, or we're not going to touch him then.
Do you think on that point, Bandy? I think that's why if we had to sell someone, he would be the one I would sell.
If you can get some serious
if we can get
for him,
over 18 million, 20 million. His brother went for 25 after a decent loan because we know the problem that we've got. The problem we've got a little bit is he's easy to replace at this level because actually you don't need to be that good to be a decent Championship centre half.
I think our game is based on scoring more than the opposition. So that's why I've never been too over-enamoured by who plays defensively.
Yeah. Whereas next season, if we were to get promoted, you'd have to spend 30 million to get someone as good as Rav. So actually, it's harder if you sell him when at the next level, but we're not even there yet. So I think January is going to be a bit of a tricky one. But for me, Rav will be the one to sell then. I think Edmondson, I have been really impressed with him, and it would be unfair to leave him out, but he'd be my 3rd in the ranking. I think I'd have Rav, Clark, Edmondson. Fry's kind of similar to what Ben Gibson is, just without the big move. Gibson never really kicked on when he left. I think they're probably quite similar. And obviously, we forget Lenihan even exists because he was captain. He was a top performer in the league. Never really missed games before he played for us till he came to us. So you've still got, if he ever gets fit again and you lost Rav, you've actually still got a decent set of defenders in the mix.
I controversially would say at the moment, if I had to pick, I would go with Fry and Rav Vandenberg as my two best defenders because they've got a bit more culture on the ball and they're better at starting off the passing from the back. I think Clark and Edmondson are just two real old-fashioned stoppers, defenders. I worry a little bit, like Simon Pobble said on the podcast last week, when you've got Clark alongside Borges on the left against the better sides, will lack a little bit of pace on the left, and teams could target that. Plus, I like Fry on set pieces. He's commanding. He's 6'4". I just think Fry and Vandenberg would be a good mix, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that moving forward. But we'll wait and see. It's a wonderful problem to have.
Do you not think they're too similar, Dicko? Fry and Rav,
but
almost like carbon copies of one another.
But I think Edmondson and Clark are very similar, so it's which way you go.
I like that balance, the left and the right. I think that's quite key in a defence. You almost need that symmetry.
Yeah, and I think Clark is a brilliant defender. Like he's a brilliant
he enjoys
defender.
It.
Yeah, and he'll get his
he
head
celebrates
in.
his own tackles and things, and that's what you want.
And I think
he takes pride in clean sheets more than the keeper does at times.
Yeah, I think he made a couple of mistakes, didn't he? I think did he earlier on in the season? Or was it last season? Maybe last season at Leeds. Did he come on and give a penalty away after 2 minutes?
Yeah,
something like that. But he's so desperate to defend and stop the ball and that kind of thing. I think him and Rav actually are really complementary because he's kind of the head the ball defender, and Rav's a little bit more. He takes a step back and he lets the player come on him, and then he'll move in and take the ball. So. Like you said, Dicko, I mean, it's a nice problem to have. And again, Kieran Scott is the man who's bringing these footballers into the club, and he's building strength in depth. And we just need to just iron out some of them tweaks, and then I think we'll all be happy.
So I'll skip past Saturday's game against Hull without mentioning a few of the goals because I thought there was a couple of really superb goals. We'll start with Azaz from his assist by Hayden Hackney, who again, another discussion. Brilliant to have Hayden Hackney back in the side. That was a massive boost for Middlesbrough, certainly looking ahead to the games coming up. He definitely made a difference in the middle of the park, having his energy up and down the pitch. Hackney, I thought he was really good coming back in yesterday. He scored, he had the assist for the first goal for Finazaz. Graham, the Championship, Zidane, does it again. Thoughts on that wonderful piece of play by Finazaz for the first goal?
It was genius. There's not many players in the team, if any, that can actually do that. Feint to go one way, checked in, saw the corner, bent it beautifully. Does that with ease. He probably does that in training 20 times a game. It's easy for him. We need to get him on the ball as much as we can because he's capable of doing that. Brilliant performance. I thought yesterday was a bit strange because we weren't full on attacking. We were a bit patient. I think we had to be patient because they were pretty handy on the transition. So we were feeding ourselves into the game quite slowly. But when he got it, saw the opportunity, bang, got us off the mark, and that was it. We went for him after that, and then we got the second quite quickly with Doak again. Doak and Conway, probably need to speak about that dynamic and that partnership. They're friends on and off the pitch. They both play at international level together. Brilliant. They're looking for each other on the pitch. They know how each other play. If you look at Conway's second goal, Doak's checked back. He's looked for the cut back. Tommy's there, picks it up round the defending, smashes it across the keeper. A brilliant relationship, and long may that flourish.
Second and third goal, Rob, like Graham has just said there, the Doak and Conway, partnership, both goals, assist goal. That second goal was a wonderful header, wasn't it, Rob?
Yeah, it was great, and I think Tommy Conway was good after the game in his interview because he said, I've been telling Doak I'm going to be peeling away at the back post, and he just needs to give it to me. And he said they caught each other. I think he said he looked at him and gave him a little nod, and then he did that little chip. But that is a really, really difficult header, actually heading it so it's going back across the goal, over the keeper, over the defender from a very acute angle. I've been really, really impressed with Tommy Conway. I thought it was a good signing anyway. I always thought when he played for Bristol City, he's someone to watch out for. He's always on these sort of top under 21 players in the Championship. I thought, $4.5 million. God, that's for us, that's like 25 million for us, isn't it? Like from a fee, I thought, God, he's going to have to score some goals here. And you look at his record and you think, God, we spent 4.5 million. He's only scored, 20 career goals. Surely there was somebody out there we could get who's, banging in 15, 20 a season that we could have bought. But now, pretty much, he's got his best ever goal tally. I think he needs 2 more goals to equal his best. And he started 9 games.
7 goals, 9 starts.
8,
is it?
8 goals, 9 starts.
Even better then.
Which is tremendous, which is fabulous, isn't it?
We spoke early in the podcast's infancy, didn't we, about Conway when he come in, and we were deciding, is it Latte, is it Conway? This was post, the transfer window when Latte wanted to move to Ipswich, and I boldly said that I would start Conway ahead of him every game. I still would, because I believe he's a better all-round striker. I do like Lath. I enjoy his exuberance, his movement, his aggression to win the ball. But I just think Conway's got that little bit more finesse and cuteness in and around the box. He's a fox in the box. He'll get on the end of anything. And like you say, this first goal, our second goal, that header was brilliant. Dokes picked him out beautifully. Prior to that, Dokes been picking him out front post. He's looking for him all the time. Dokes just lifts his head, sees the run, and he just puts it on a plate every week.
I think we've got a nice little mix depending on who plays, because what I've noticed is Conway's drifts wide quite a lot and they leave the sort of central areas empty. So Bergshall can actually do a little bit of that. Whereas Lath, he likes that ball in behind, ball over the top, and he will come short. And I think what we probably underestimate about Lath is he's actually a really good target man. I know he's only small and we think he's small and quick, but actually it sticks. And he's really driven to keep the ball and he'll get it. And I think there was one at Blackburn where he took it, he bullied a man off the ball, cut it back in, and we moved on and attacked. But what's been brilliant, and I think Conway said this, this might have been after Oxford, he said it's great that we're both scoring because we know now we have to score to play. Because actually when you look at it, apart from the Blackburn game, maybe if we look over the last 4 or 5 games, maybe 6 games, they scored in them all, one of them. And actually that's a perfect position for us to be in because you need that and they're pushing each other to get more.
I think it's tough for whoever's not playing because they both would probably start for the majority of championship sides. They're both that good. But it's a wonderful, wonderful problem like we mentioned about the centre-backs for Michael Carrick to have, because if you're a centre-half who's been chasing Tommy Conway around the pitch for 70 minutes, then you look at the bench and his number goes up, you're coming off Tommy, and the centre-half must think, thank God for that. You look across and you see Latte stretching, you must be thinking, oh my God, what a nightmare, he's going to run the legs off us for the last 20 minutes. And vice versa, if Latte starts and then he's coming off, and you've got Tommy Conway coming on, who works as well, incredibly hard running the channels. It's a really good problem for Middlesbrough to have, and I think, as we're just going to bring up these games now coming up, you've got obviously Burnley and Leeds coming up. Burnley sitting second, Leeds are sitting third. I think that's going to be a real key sort of tactic for Middlesbrough to use those 2 strikers in the correct way for those games, because that could be the difference in the last 20 minutes, or us to look to the bench and bring a Latte on or bring a Tommy Conway on. Could just be the difference in us getting some bonus points to boost us, not just as playoff contenders, but top 2 contenders moving forward. Are you still in the camp that the top 2's still on, Rob? Or are you thinking we're a playoff side? Or do you think it's still there for us?
I mean, what is there 28 games left?
Yeah.
I mean, there's loads of points, absolutely tons of points left.
Well,
I think
just to cut in there, I know that. I know how many games is left. I know how many points is left, and that's all fine. But are Middlesbrough good enough? What we've just said earlier on with the inconsistencies, they've still got that game in them like Blackburn where we lose 1-0 at home in Fluffit. Are we going to get a consistency? Are we going to be good enough to push that top 2? Or are these coming games against Burnley and Leeds, are those going to be season defining in terms of if we can get 4 points from those games, does that project into the top 2 picture? If we get beat off Leeds and beat off Burnley, do we accept that maybe it's the playoffs?
So for me, results and performances are 2 different things. I think Sheffield United are attritional. I think they're a pretty poor footballing side, but they've got loads of points. Burnley are the same. They scored 9 goals in their first 2 games. I think they've scored 14 since, right? We did that in 3 games, but they've only let in 6 goals, I think it is, or 7 goals all season. their performances will not be thrilling fans. They'll not be getting excited. They'll not be. So actually, for us, it's just converting it into results. Whereas actually, we're probably more like Leeds. Actually, I think Sheffield United and Burnley are going to take one of the places, and I think us or Leeds might take the other one, because I think we've just got a bit more up front. And I think over 56 games. I know it's a long season. Over 46 games, I actually think us or Leeds will have the firepower to keep it going. I actually think, unfortunately for Sunderland, they haven't got that Latilas or Tommy Conway or Nonto or someone like that who's going to just drag them over. They've got some good young players, but that's where they're going to fall down. So for me, it's 2 out of those 4. So the answer is 100%. I think I could see this team Boro going on an 8-game winning run. I could see us losing 5 in a row as well. So actually, I think we might not know. January, I think we're going to surprise a lot of our own fans. I think there's going to be some big signings, and it'll move some players out the team that'll completely transform us. A bit like a Ramirez type signing that we did when we got promoted under Cranks. I think Gibson will be able to smell it, and he'll just give that little bit of a push.
Ryan Giles, anybody?
I think he might be a Boro player by the end of January.
Graham, you're going to Turf Moor and you're going to Elland Road.
Yep.
What are you expecting in terms of points? What do you think?
Oh, it's an interesting one, because they are hard places to go to try and stamp your authority. We've proved that we can do it. We went to West Brom when they were in top form. I think they were top of the league when we went there and won 1-0. So we are capable. Looking at us as an overall team, I believe we're one of the 2 best teams in this league. And I'd also say, probably, I don't want to say this, but it's Leeds as well, because I'm a purist. I like players that play on. I like teams that play on the front foot, offensive teams. Rob's spot on when he says attritional for Sheffield United, because they are. But that's wilder for you, isn't it? Horrible little manager getting results week in, week out,
doesn't he?
Yeah, he does look fired up. He looks like he's got a point to prove all the time, apart from when he was here, which is typical. There's a Boro meme for you. Who's the most successful manager ever who had a nightmare at one club? And what club was it? Boro. No, I think Rob's right. Sheffield United are attritional. Burnley are attritional. Their fans aren't even bothered about how they play. They just want results. But they're giving Parker grief now, because they've been so used to that fluid football under Vincent Kompany. Now they're going through a bit of transition, but they still seem to be picking up results. But I've always maintained, I believe we're a top 2 side, because we are so good in that final third. We're blowing teams away. So I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to say we'll finish top 2. And Leeds, they won't go away. You know, there's a lot of pressure on Farker. The fans are in demand every single game. They won't accept anything less than attacking football. We could pick them off, like you said, Dicko, with that exchange in substitutions. Start Conway when he tires, bring on Laugh, fresh legs, ball over the top possibly, because they'll play high line. They'll come at us. You won't see Leeds sitting back at home because they won't be allowed to. Fans won't allow it. Burnley might be slightly different. They might sit in and try and pick us off on the counter. But looking at the 2 games, I want 6 points. That's my demands. But I'm fully aware that it's tricky. It is difficult. If we can get 1 win from the 2 games, we'll be better than 2 draws. So I'd go all out to get that win at Burnley. Take risks, get at them. Just ease ourselves into the game, though. Don't go gung-ho and find yourself a goal down after 10 minutes because we got picked off. Ease yourself in the game. Try and do what we did at West Brom. Pick off a win. Try and get a 1-0 win. And then, I wouldn't say you got a free hit, but the pressure's slightly off when you go to Elland Road because we've already got 3 points in the bag.
I would say the pressure's off. Never at Elland Road. I think the pressure's right on Elland Road.
The pressure's always off. Of course it is. It's
when the Boro in town. So
it'll be electric.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, guys, thanks very much. Time's up unbelievably again. I want to thank you both for coming on. Rob, you've been a brilliant guest, very knowledgeable as ever. Thank you very much. We'll have you on again in the future.
No worries.
So that's it. So, as I say every week, don't say typical Boro. Watch it, listen to it, and we'll see you next week. Up the Boro.
Up the Boro.